They say graduation day is supposed to be one of the proudest moments of your life. Mine became the day my father called me a failure in front of everyone. While my brother got standing ovations for getting into law school, I got shamed for choosing nursing. Real men don't become nurses, Dad said, loud enough for the whole family to hear. That was 15 years ago. 15 years of silence. 15 years of building a life he knew nothing about. Then, one night, I walked into the ICU from my shift, grabbed the patient chart at the nurse's station, and froze. The name on that hospital bill made my blood run cold. My father, the same man who destroyed me at graduation. The same man who said I'd never amount to anything. Now his life was literally in my hands. And what I did next? It changed everything between us forever. This is my story. And trust me, you won't believe how this ends. My name is John, and I'm 43 years old. The story I'm about to tell you starts on what should have been the happiest day of my life, but instead became the moment that shattered my relationship with my father for 15 years. Some wounds run so deep that time doesn't heal them. It just teaches you to live around the pain. But sometimes life has a way of bringing everything full circle in the most unexpected ways. I grew up in a typical American household in Ohio. Dad was a corporate lawyer. Mom was a high school English teacher. And my older brother Marcus was the golden child who could do no wrong. Marcus and I were only 2 years apart, but we might as well have lived in different universes. He was everything my father wanted in a son. Athletic, charismatic, interested in law and business. I was the quieter one, the kid who volunteered at the local hospital during summers, who actually cared about helping people instead of impressing them. The tension started early, but I didn't really understand it until high school. Every family dinner became a stage for Marcus to showcase his achievements while I sat there feeling invisible. Marcus made varsity quarterback. Dad would announce proudly, raising his glass. Marcus got accepted into the debate team nationals. Marcus received a scholarship offer from 3 different universities. Meanwhile, when I mentioned my acceptance into the nursing program at Ohio State, Dad barely looked up from his steak. "That's nice," he muttered, like I'd just told him I'd finished my homework. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment on this video. Let me know if you've ever felt overlooked by your own family. My mother tried to bridge the gap, but she was caught in the middle. She'd pat my hand under the table, give me encouraging smiles, but she never stood up to Dad. Not really. That's the thing about families. Sometimes the silence is louder than the words. Marcus wasn't a bad brother. Exactly. He never intentionally tried to make me feel small, but he also never questioned why he got all the attention. He just accepted it as his due, the way some people accept good weather. The real breaking point came during my college years. While Marcus sailed through pre-law at Harvard with Dad paying every penny and bragging about it to anyone who'd listen, I worked 3 part-time jobs to afford my nursing degree. I didn't ask Dad for help after freshman year because I was tired of the comments. Nursing, he'd said when I first announced my major, "That's a woman's job. John, why don't you consider pre-med if you're so interested in hospitals? Be a doctor, not a male nurse." The way he said male nurse made it sound like an insult, like I'd chosen to be something shameful. But I loved nursing. I loved the patient care, the human connection, the fact that nurses are the ones who actually spend time with people when they're at their most vulnerable. Doctors diagnose, sure, but nurses heal. We're the ones holding hands at 3 in the morning. The ones who notice when something's wrong before the machines start beeping. The ones who make the difference between a patient feeling like a number or feeling like a human being. Have you ever had someone make you feel worthless for choosing a path they didn't approve of? Drop a comment below. Graduation day arrived in May, 15 years ago. It was one of those perfect spring days in Columbus' bright blue sky. Temperature in the 70s, flowers blooming across campus. The kind of day that feels like a promise of good things to come. I'd graduated with honors, top 10% of my nursing class. I'd already accepted a position at Cleveland Clinic, one of the best hospitals in the country. I was proud of myself, even if my father wasn't. The ceremony was huge. Thousands of graduates in caps and gowns. families crowding the stadium with signs and cameras. I spotted my family in the stands, Mom waving enthusiastically, Marcus giving me a thumbs up, and Dad sitting with his arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Still, they'd come. That had to mean something, right? I was wrong. After the ceremony, we met up outside for photos. Comerth had driven in from Cambridge for the weekend, taking time off from his own studies. Mom was crying happy tears, hugging me tight. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart," she whispered. "You worked so hard for this." Those words meant everything because I knew she meant them. Then Dad stepped forward, and I actually felt hopeful for a moment. Maybe this would be the moment he finally acknowledged what I'd accomplished. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment on this video. Code, Dad said, looking at my nursing degree like it was a participation trophy. "You're really doing this?" It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, Dad. I start at Cleveland Clinic in July. It's a really competitive position." He cut me off. Cleveland Clinic as a nurse. The emphasis he put on that last word made several nearby families turn to look at us. Marcus touched Dad's arm. "Dad, come on, it's his graduation day." But Dad was just getting started. I could see it in his eyes, that look he got when he was about to deliver a verdict in one of his cases. "You know what, John? I've kept my mouth shut for 4 years, hoping you'd come to your senses. But I can't do it anymore. You're a failure." The word hit me like a physical blow. You had potential. You could have been a doctor, a lawyer, something respectable. Instead, you chose to be a nurse. Do you know what people say when I tell them my son is a nurse? Do you know how that reflects on this family? My mother gasped. "Richard, that's enough." But it wasn't enough for him. The floodgates had opened, and years of disappointment came pouring out right there in front of hundreds of people. Marcus is about to graduate from Harvard Law. Harvard, John, do you understand the caliber of person he is? And you? You're going to spend your life emptying bedpans and taking orders from real medical professionals. You're a glorified janitor with a degree. Have you ever been publicly humiliated by someone who was supposed to support you? I want to hear your stories in the comments. The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. They were staring openly now, and I could feel my face burning with shame and rage. Marcus looked horrified. "Dad, what the hell? You can't say that." Mom was crying, pulling at Dad's sleeve. But I just stood there, frozen, watching my father destroy me on what should have been one of the best days of my life. "I'm ashamed to call you my son," Dad continued, and those words carved themselves into my soul. "We raised you better than this. We gave you every opportunity, and you chose mediocrity. You chose to be invisible. Well, congratulations, John. You've succeeded at being a disappointment." Then he turned to Marcus. "Come on, let's go get some real celebration for when you graduate next year. That'll be an achievement worth acknowledging." And just like that, my father walked away from my graduation. Mom lingered for a moment, torn between following her husband and staying with her devastated son. "I'm sorry," she whispered, kissing my cheek. "He doesn't mean it. He's just—" But we both knew he did mean it. Every word. Marcus stayed behind after they left. We stood there in awkward silence while families around us celebrated, took photos, made plans for dinner. "I'm sorry, man," Marcus finally said, completely out of line. I couldn't even look at him. "You should go. Wouldn't want to be associated with the failure of the family." Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment on this video. Your support means everything. John Marcus started, but I walked away. I walked away from my graduation, from my family, from everything I'd worked so hard for. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 2 hours, crying like I hadn't cried since I was a kid. My phone buzzed with texts from Mom, from Marcus, even from a few friends who'd witnessed the scene. I ignored them all. That night, I made a decision. If my father thought I was a failure, if he was ashamed of me, then he didn't deserve to be part of my life. I didn't need his approval. I didn't need his validation. I would prove him wrong by succeeding on my own terms, and he'd never know about it. The years that followed were a blur of long shifts, continuing education, and climbing the nursing ladder. I threw myself into my work with an intensity that probably wasn't entirely healthy, but it gave me purpose. Cleveland Clinic